Okay, so one of the most important skills that you need to understand, not only in math, but also in science, is how to convert units of measure. And a lot of people are going to get this simple problem wrong because they get confused on how to convert units of measure. But let's see how you do with this problem. And let me go ahead and describe it to you. So, what we have here is 30 miles per hour, and we want to express this speed in terms of feet per second. So 30 miles per hour is how many feet per second? That is the question. Feel free to use a calculator, but here is a very important piece of information that you need to know to solve this problem. And that is 1 mile or one statute mile. That just means 1 mile on land. And by the way, this is important terms of a nautical mile. So you may have heard of a nautical mile. A nautical mile is the distance of a mile on the ocean. A statute mile is a distance of a mile on land, and they are slightly different. But this is a units. If you didn't know how many feet, let's just say we're in a statute mile. I'm going to go ahead and give it to you right here. So 1 mile is equal to one statute mile. Again, is equal to 5,280 feet. Okay, so that is the question. Again, feel free to use a calculator, but if you can figure this out, go ahead and put your answer into the comment section. I'll show you the correct answer in just 1 second. And then, of course, I'm going to show you exactly how to convert units of measure and solve this problem. But before we get started, let me quickly introduce myself. My name is John, and I have been teaching middle and high school math for decades. And if you need help in mathematics, check out my math help program at tcmathacademy.com. You can find a link to that in the description below. And if this video helps you out, or if you just enjoy this content, make sure to like and subscribe, as that definitely helps me out. Okay, so we have 30 miles per hour. Maybe it's a car going 30 miles per hour. How many feet per second is that speed? Well, let's go ahead and take a look at the answer. The correct answer is 44 feet per second. All right, so how did you do? Well, if you got this right, let's go ahead and celebrate by giving a nice little happy face and A plus a 100% and multiple stars. So you can brag to your friends and family that indeed you are a professional, certified expert in the area of converting units of measure. And again, this is critically important, not only in mathematics, but in other aspects of life beyond even just school. Okay, if you are in the trades, if you work with construction, for example, you'll have to convert units of measure all the time, and oftentimes, the problems are pretty straightforward. But if you are a student and you're going to be getting into more science classes like physics or chemistry, this is a skill that you absolutely must master. And I'm going to go ahead and get into exactly how to approach converting units of measure where there is more than one unit of measure involved. So here is the situation. We have 30 miles per hour. We want to understand or want to know how many feet per second this is equivalent to, right? This speed. And again, we have this piece of information. Now, if you didn't have this information here on in terms of how many feet are in a mile or a statute mile, you would have to obtain that, and you can get this in all different sorts of conversion tables and whatnot. So this is not necessarily. No, I'm not going to say it's not common knowledge, but if you forgot how many feet are in a mile, that's perfectly fine. But even if you looked it up, okay, you still need to know what to do with this information. So let's go ahead and start talking about that right now. Okay, so first things first, and the first thing we want to realize is that this 30 miles per hour, this unit right here in math, we call this a rate. Okay, so you could describe, let's say this is a car. What is the rate of the vehicle? What's the car's rate? Now, typically, we would use a word like speed or velocity, but a rate is effectively a fraction where you're comparing two different units of measure. Okay, so we can kind of see this more clearly here. And let me go and just write this out. So we have 30 miles. Okay, so this is our miles. This per, okay, this is how we would say this, 30 miles per. The per is the fraction bar. So the miles come first, that's our numerator, and the hours is our denominator. So we can write this 30 miles per hour, and we want to think of this in terms of a fraction. Okay, so 30 miles per hour is equal to 30 miles per 1 hour. So let's say this car, if we say, oh, how fast is a car going? It's going 30 miles per hour. What does that mean? Well, in 1 hour's time, it will cover 30 miles. So 30 miles per 1 hour. So the first thing you want to do when you want to convert units of measure is to express your rate as a fraction, just like this. Okay, it's going to be much easier to do these problems if you do that. So now what we want to do is say, okay, well, we have this car, let's just call it, for example, it's going 30 miles per hour, but its speed is in miles per hour. But the question is, how many 30 miles per hour is how many feet per second. Now, if you look at this rate, what are we comparing? We're comparing a unit of distance to a unit of time. Well, I can convert this distance into another unit, another distance measure, which in this, of course, would be feet. And of course, I can compare hours, or I can convert hours into another time measurement, which would be seconds, right? So we're just going from, we're not breaking the rate here or changing anything. We're just using different units of measure, but we're comparing distance to time. And what we need to be thinking about is, okay, well, how do I go from miles per hour to feet per second? Well, this process is called converting units of measure. Very, very important process. We're just going to take it nice and slow in terms of explaining this. And what we're going to do first is talk about how to go from miles per hour. Let's get out of miles and get into feet. So we're going to convert miles into feet first, and then we'll address the hours. I don't want to do this simultaneously because this can be confusing, but we'll have to combine all these steps to kind of finish this problem up. But I'm just going to take this nice and slow. So let's go and talk about how to convert miles to feet. Okay, so, or miles per hour to feet. Okay, so what we need to do is use a conversion factor. And a conversion factor is basically a fraction where we have both units that are involved, okay, the one that you have and the one you want to go into in a fraction, okay? So this fraction here is going to be the following, okay? 1 mile, or let's just use it, let me state it this way, 5,280 feet per 1 mile. Okay, so this is our conversion factor. Now, I could write this same conversion factor, and sometimes I'll need to do it this way as this. I can write 1 mile per 5,280 feet. There's nothing wrong with this, and there's nothing wrong with this, but we need to choose the correct conversion factor for our situation. So what am I talking about there? Well, let's go ahead and talk about that right now. Okay, so this is how this works. So we're in miles per hour right now, 30 miles per hour, and we want to go to feet. We want to get out of miles and convert to feet. Well, how many miles are in a feet? Well, we just have this written right here. There's 5,280 feet per 1 mile. So what we're going to do is you're going to take your current units of measure and you're going to multiply it by this conversion factor. And when this happens, notice we're dealing with fractions. The miles will cross cancel. Let me just make sure you understand how to multiply fractions, because if you don't, this is a problem. Let me kind of use something nice and simple. So 7 over 10 times, oh, I don't know, let's say 3 over 7. Okay, so if I'm going to multiply these fractions, this is 7 times 3 over 10 times 7. When I have the like factors in the numerator and denominator, here I have 7 in the numerator, I have 7 in the denominator. I can cross cancel because one's in the numerator, one is in the denominator, okay, in terms of these factors, so you can cross cancel. And this is how we get rid of units of measure when we are converting, okay? So we are multiplying these two fractions, and notice I have a mile down here and miles over here. I can literally just get rid of the miles, and what I'm left with is feet, okay? And that is the name of the game. You have to be thinking in terms of what conversion factor do I need to multiply by to get rid of the units of measure. So you have to be thinking if I have miles in the numerator, I want to have miles down here in the denominator so I can get rid of those miles, okay, when I multiply. All right, so hopefully you understand that, and if you do, let's go ahead and continue to proceed. All right, so again, in order to know this conversion factor, you would just look it up. 1 mile is equal to 5,280 feet, 1 statute mile again, and that would be different. You have to be careful because if you are doing some sort of word problem and they state nautical miles, there is a pretty big difference. If my memory serves me right, a nautical mile is pretty close to 6,000 feet. So that's a big difference between a statute mile. So pay attention to those things. All right, so if you understand what I just did here, we can go ahead and proceed. And let's go ahead and do this right now. Okay, so first things first, here is our 30 miles per hour. Let's just kind of go back to the beginning. So we have 30 miles per hour. We are going to write this as a fraction, this rate as a fraction, 30 miles per 1 hour. And our first objective is to get rid of the miles and go into feet. So we're going to multiply our 30 miles per hour times the conversion factor for feet and miles. And here, again, miles goes away, and I'm left with just feet, okay, in the numerator. So when I multiply this, what are the units of measure that are remain? Well, I'm going to have feet for my distance, and I still have hours for my time. So if I did this multiplication, 30 times 5,280, and my answer would be how many feet per hour? Okay, so that's not what I want, right? So I have feet per hour. We're getting closer. I want feet per second. So now we're going to have to address our time measurement. So I'm not going to do this multiplication yet because we're going to need to multiply this situation by other conversion factors to address the time portion of this problem. But at least this part right here takes care of the conversion from miles to feet. All right, so let's go ahead and start talking about time. And of course, I didn't give you the conversion factor for time because I'm pretty confident that you know that there is 60 minutes in 1 hour. Now here, okay, I'm going from miles per hour. Again, we have miles per hour right here. We're going to write this as a rate. So we're going to focus our attention in on the hours. We want to get rid of the hours, and we want to go from hours to seconds, right? Well, before we go to from hours to second, we're going to have to make a pit stop at minutes, right? So we're going to want to go from hours to minutes to seconds. So let's convert first hours to minutes. And how do we do that? Well, pretty straightforward. 60 minutes, 1 hour per 60 minutes. This is the conversion factor. So I know that you know, okay, how many minutes there is in an hour, but what I want you to get used to is working with these conversion factors. This is really, really important because if you don't work this way, if you are, let's say, taking a physics class or a chemistry class, and if you don't work with the units of measure in fractions and think in these terms, you will be very confused and you're going to get a lot of problems wrong. Okay, the easy stuff you can do, oh yeah, like 60 minutes, if, how many hours are 120 minutes? Oh, I'll just divide that by, I have 120 minutes, and then I know, okay, there's 60 minutes per 1 hour. You could, these basic conversions, that's fine. But when you, in other words, you don't have to express all, these basic conversions, writing them out like this. But when you get into a little bit more involved problems, you need to kind of stop yourself and break things down in this manner. Okay, so when we do this, when we multiply, what's going to happen? Well, the hours are going to go away, and I'm left with minutes. Okay, and that's what I want. So if I want to go from hours to minutes, I'm going to have to multiply by this conversion factor, but I want seconds, right? So we're going to have to go from minutes to seconds. Okay, so here is our final conversion factor. So how many seconds are in 1 minute? Well, 1 minute has 60 seconds. All right, so let's take a look at what happens when I multiply miles per hour times these two conversion factors, okay? And this is what you want to be doing. You just want to kind of see what units get canceled. Okay, so an hour is going to cross cancel with that hour. The minute is going to cross cancel with this minute, and you're going to be left with seconds. Okay, so when I have miles per hour, I need to multiply 1 over 60 times 1 over 60 again, and I'll be left with seconds. All right, so most of you probably could figure this out because 60 times 60 is 3,600, and you could work it in that manner. And some of you may have figured this out and got the right answer just by kind of doing this in a more kind of yeah, indirect manner, if you will, right? But if you were taking a test or exam, you really need to be able to illustrate this. But this is kind of, I don't want to say the proper way of doing it, but this is the best practice of converting units of measure. Okay, so now we have our conversion factors right here to convert from hours to seconds, and we also previously looked at how to go from miles to feet. So now we need to put it all together, and we're going to take that step right now. But first, we're going to take this step, and that is having you subscribe to my YouTube channel. I definitely need your support. You know, I love putting these videos together. I hope that people before this are really struggling, like I don't get how to convert units of measure. And if my little video could take you and be like, oh wow, I get that, and you're like, oh right, now I get to take my test and ace it. That's why I teach. Okay, so I can get people to understand the topic or the subject of mathematics. All right, it does me no good to have all this stuff in my brain. I want to share what I know with others, but really learning math is all about communication. Okay, and it's also about your approach to learning math. So if you're struggling in math, what you need to just understand, there are no shortcuts. Okay, you got to be willing to put in your best effort, work as hard as you possibly can. But beyond that, what you need is full comprehensive instruction. If you're trying to just watch little quick tutorials and little shortcut videos, hey, here's how you do this something real quick, da 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 da, learning real quick never works. Okay, yeah, you might learn a little bit, but with the more challenging problems, you're going to struggle because you didn't fully comprehend and assimilate all the material. So to me, I've been doing this for decades. There's only one way to learn and one way to teach, and that is to really go for mastery. So if you need help in mathematics, my YouTube channel is hopefully for you. And go ahead and hit that notification bell as well so you can get my latest videos. Okay, so let's go to put this all together. And this is the way it would look like. I mean, I kind of didn't want to write too small, but I wanted to break this down. So let's go ahead and see what's going on here. Okay, so here is our 30 miles per hour. My M right there is miles. I kind of squeeze it in. All right, so this is 30 miles per hour, and we're going to convert 30 miles per hour to feet per second. Okay, so let's go ahead and just review what we did. First, we're going to get rid of the miles to go from feet. So our conversion factor is 5280 feet to 1 statute miles. So miles goes away. Okay, all I got to do is multiply by this, and I'm left with feet up here in the numerator. Okay, so now let's focus in on time. So hours will go cross cancel with hours. Minutes will cross cancel with minutes, and I'm left with seconds. So what units of measure remain? I'll have feet in the numerator and seconds in the denominator. And I'll have, again, feet in the numerator and seconds in the denominator. So this is feet per second. Seconds, excuse me. Okay, so but what do we have to multiply by? Well, we still have to multiply this 30 times this 5280. This is 1, this is 1, so we don't have to worry about that. And down here in denominator, I have 1 times 60 times 60. So really, this is going to be 30 times 5280 feet over 60 times 60 seconds. Okay, so let's go ahead and just do the number crunching here. And when we finish this up, here's what we come up with. So just one step at a time, we'll do this multiplication. So 30 times 5280 will be 158,400. And of course, 60 divided by 60 is 3,600. We'll take this divided by that, and we're going to get 44. But what? Well, 44 is in the numerator. Okay, remember we have that in the numerator, 44 feet over 1 second. But we can express that as 44 feet per second. Okay, so I know a lot of you were able to do this just by crunching the numbers and maybe kind of doing it in a informal way, and that's perfectly fine. Okay, I didn't state that you have to do or figure this problem out in a specific way, but what you want to kind of gain from this video is that when you are converting units of measure, and when it gets more interesting, especially if you're dealing with more sophisticated units, like things that you're going to be dealing with in physics, chemistry, or whatever. Maybe you are in the trades, you're uh, HVAC, which is air conditioning type things, and you're learning some of the basic theories. Listen, you just never know when you're going to have to get really good at converting units of measure. And sometimes, if you're in doubt, you're like, well, I'm not even quite sure if I did that right. I mean, I know you could just go to your phone and type it in and get the conversion. But what you want to do is to just have the confidence that you have the right, you know, idea, okay, and when it terms, or at least have be convinced that you actually, if you're going from one unit to another unit, that in fact this unit is the correct unit, and that's important, okay, not only just in, academics, but in real life, okay, especially if you're, in construction, trade, etc., etc. All right, now if some of you out there want to kind of improve in your basic math skills, I have a couple quick suggestions for you. Now, if you want to just focus on basic math, if you're just really scared of math, you're like, I like to just learn basic math again, check out my Math Foundations course. It's just a little mini course that I have. It's 3 chapters, but it's basically going to teach you everything that you learned way back in the good old days when you were in primary school or elementary school and middle school. These are very critical skills like percent, order of operations, fractions, etc. But if some of you want to take it a step further and learn beyond basic math, algebra, geometry, maybe some trigonometry, probability, and statistics, well, then check out my Math Skills Rebuilder course. You can find a link to all these courses in the description below. But if this video helped you out, or if you just enjoyed it, make sure to like and subscribe. And with that being said, I definitely wish you all the best in your mathematics adventures. Thank you for your time and have a great day.